This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Okay, so we are on the eve of Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius, and already I'm hearing people saying how Anthony Joshua, he's got to put on a great statement, he's got to knock him out and do what Deontay Wilder done to Robert Helenius. If he doesn't, then clearly we know who's going to win between Wilder and Joshua, all that kind of hoo-ha. And of course, a lot of it is coming from the likes of Spencer Oliver, that Anthony Joshua, he's got to make a statement, as he does with quite a few Anthony Joshua fights, which is weird, isn't it? How he says how Anthony Joshua should go in there and start blasting people out when he didn't do it himself in his career. He had 9 knockouts. Anyway, doesn't really matter. This is talk sport and their agenda, if you like, with Anthony Joshua. Now, ultimately, does it really matter how Anthony Joshua looks? No, it doesn't. What matters is that he works on the things that him and Derek James have been working on. If he goes in there and just blasts out Robert Helenius in 1 or 2 rounds, well, is that going to do him any good going to a Wilder fight? No, it won't. The more rounds, the better in some ways. But I would love Anthony Joshua to knock out Robert Helenius, but is he going to knock him out as quick as Wilder? No, of course not, because Robert Helenius in the Wilder fight went straight at him and has walked onto one. Some people say he took a dive. I'm not too sure about that one, but he put it on him. He put it on Wilder. Robert Helenius has been in fights where he is a spoiler. He will go on the back foot and just defend. Look at him against Dillian Whyte. He didn't even throw a punch against Dillian Whyte, really, outside the first round. He was just on the back foot, making it difficult for him to be knocked out himself. So he is a bit of a spoiler. He is. So no, I certainly wouldn't expect Anthony Joshua to knock him out in early doors, unless Robert Helenius either falls into a trap or guns forward himself. But of course, if he guns forward himself, then maybe he could knock out Joshua. You never know. He is actually a big puncher. Of course, Robert Helenius at one time was touted to be the replacement of Vladimir Klitschko. He was. He kind of fell off the radar a little bit when he was losing to some people that he shouldn't have lost to, like a Johan Duapa. Again, he was winning that fight, but again, he got caught, much like with Gerald Washington when he got caught by Washington as well. But Helenius is better than what people give him credit for, but a lot of people won't recognise that. They won't. But one thing that you can guarantee is that Robert Helenius has probably watched pretty much every single one of Anthony Joshua's fights. Every single one of them. And he'd be watching it from a viewpoint of, I'd like to fight him. What would I do if I fought Anthony Joshua? And that would have been going on for years, as it will do for a lot of heavyweights. Most of them watch Anthony Joshua, hoping one day they get to fight Anthony Joshua one day. Do you think Anthony Joshua has been watching Robert Helenius? Doubt it. He's probably watched him fight only a couple of times. For sure, he'd have watched him take on Derek Chisora, because Derek Chisora is his pal. He'd have seen him fight Dillian Whyte, because that was a Matchroom show. And of course, he would have seen the knockout from Deontay Wilder. Why? Because Wilder is the rival. That's probably about as much as he's watched of Robert Helenius. Guarantee it. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. The important thing for me is that Anthony Joshua wins. What we don't want is deja vu, which I spoke about a few videos back, which is that the whole situation of a last-minute replacement, which Robert Helenius is, like Andy Ruiz Jr. was. The fact that the replacement was caused by VADA tests, Big Baby Jarrah Miller, and now, of course, with Dillian Whyte. When he fought Andy Ruiz Jr., the idea was to call out Deontay Wilder. If he beats Robert Helenius, the idea is to call out Deontay Wilder. That's the whole idea of it, okay? So there's a lot of similarities here, a lot of similarities. And of course, he got derailed when he fought Andy Ruiz Jr. Not that the Wilder fight was going to happen anyway, because Wilder, in fight week, had already put out that he's going to rematch Luis Ortiz, and then he's going to go fight Tyson Fury. But similarities stand the same. So no, I don't expect Anthony Joshua to get in there and start throwing punches from the hip and all that kind of stuff. I don't expect him to be doing that. I expect him to box. I do. I expect him to get used to fighting somebody tall. Obviously, Wilder's going to be very, very tall. Now, historically, Anthony Joshua has always looked fantastic against tall opponents. He's always looked great against him. Now, as far as the weight is concerned, as far as the weigh-in, Anthony Joshua, 250 pounds. The only other time he's ever weighed 250 pounds was when he fought Vladimir Klitschko. That's the only time that he's ever weighed 250 pounds. Now, is that going to have any meaning in this fight? Listen, a few pound or two here and there in the heavyweight division don't mean too much. So no, it doesn't mean anything to me. For some of you, it may mean something, but for me, it doesn't. But all I want is Anthony Joshua to win. I don't care if he goes in there and beats him on points. It doesn't matter to me. I couldn't care less. There's no... Even if Anthony Joshua goes in there and the very first punch he lands and he knocks out he knocks out Helenius much quicker than Wilder done Helenius, does that mean Joshua definitely beats Wilder? No, of course not. It doesn't work that way. But, hey, not everybody has logical thinking. They don't. Some people will make that comparison automatically. For me, I think it's a stupid fight. I do. I think it's very, very silly because it, unfortunately, draws comparisons. Not everybody who watches boxing is too clued up. They're not, but they kind of look at it as a computer game. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the fight. For me, I think Anthony Joshua beats Robert Helenius. I'm going to guess mid-round stoppage. Mid kind of round, somewhere anywhere from round 5 to round 8. I think that's where Joshua is probably going to stop Helenius. If not, then I think Joshua on points. But you never know. Maybe Robert Helenius will land that punch from the gods and change his life by defeating Anthony Joshua. Of course, that would mean the Deontay Wilder fight's out the window. When the Saudis are in London, they're going to be there ringside watching Anthony Joshua. The last thing in the world that they want is to see Anthony Joshua lose. As I said, it seems very, very reminiscent of what happened with Andy Rich Jr. The whole situation does. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this one. You drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you next video.